Hello, everyone, and welcome to Old World. Are we streaming? Yes, we are streaming. We're back once more with another Old World 2026 Community Tournament match between Fiddler and Ant. Going to be an exciting time. We are on an archipelago with low water, low water and lots of land, which essentially creates a quirky continent-style map. Sometimes there are obstacles in the center of the map, such as lakes or islands that linger on the outside. In this case, we have a very quirky kind of set of peninsulas that feed into each other, and it's a very, very small layout here, just barely passing the minimum of city sites. We have 5 sites on each side of the map. And then we have quite a barren set of terrain for our players to cross. Fiddler has opted for Babylon here. Hello, Kong Cakes. Welcome to the chat. We have a fan cheering for Ant at the moment. Going to be exciting time. I'm also going to be rooting for Ant a little bit because the Hittites happen to be my favorite faction. So I'm always fond of seeing them get picked. We have a Hittite tactician with Tracker as a random trait. So that's going to provide quite a fair amount of visibility. And we have a schemer on the Babylonian side of the map. Some good resources for the capital. We have pearls, crabs, and 2 growth resources. 2 wheats, it looks like, as well as fur. We opted for traders for the Babylonian, and it looks like traders for Hattusa as well. Very exciting. And yeah, so there are no tribes on the map, actually, in this case. No tribes whatsoever. Strictly barbarian sites. We have exactly 10 camps. And we have a core of barbarian sites just to the north, or in the Hittite case, directly south of the capital. The free site is adjacent to the capital, directly east or west, depending on the player you are. And then there's kind of a no man's land for these players from that point on, clear across the map. And I'm not familiar with the gameplay of either of these players specifically, but this is going to set a very safe, kind of defensible core for each player. And then this is, let's count this out. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. About a 14 or 15 tile difference between the cities reaching each other across the side of the map. These 2 cities directly, and to go even further diagonal, that's probably looking at about 20 tiles if we wanted to go from this city kind of a little bit deeper. But yeah, so we're looking at about a 15 to 20 tile spread between each nation. Pure terrain, pure no man's land. One thing we're going to want to watch out for from the Hittites specifically, who have access to the landowner's family, is where that could be placed in the event Ant's thinking about bringing them into the game. And if he does, if he's going to use some tile buying mechanics, because he could set himself a coastal pipeline along this Atlantic Ocean coast, or a little bit more difficult, but he could even tile buy up to this coast and give himself a pipeline after building some roads down this way as well. But yeah, no tribes on the map. We did locate our first tribe camp, Balbro camp. Excuse me, hold on. I've been casting all day. Barbarian camp for the Hittites, and we're making progress on it. Now, it will spawn a unit. We're hoping for a melee unit if we want to make use of our counter-attack ability in order to help clear faster. We do have a scout coming down these hillsides as well. Decent amount of hills on this map as well, and some flat plains. So I think that's going to work out for the Hittites. They'll have bonus movement along the hills, and then if they can get their heavy chariots out into these open plains when contesting each other, it's kind of a win-win for the Hittites. You're either in the open plains with your heavy chariots, or you're fighting over the hills, which is good terrain for you. We have a first cleared camp here for the schemer, and we're just slightly behind for the Hittites. I think there's a second player, though, so they should catch up on this 5th turn. And we have attached the schemer as a general. I like to do this myself sometimes when I start with a schemer. Get that extra crit chance. Can help clearing if you get lucky. Settler coming up to settle the fresh cleared site. I'm curious what we choose to put in that location. Sages would be a good choice. Artisans could also be a good choice. Lots of growth, so tend to like sages in a spot like that. And we did get a melee unit for the Hittites, so that's going to make them have a significantly easier time clearing out this camp, which is quite nice. Dealing with that second unit. He's going to take less damage there. Another settler straight out of settler Babylonian capital. Opting for the fish as well. See, interesting. With administration here, I think... Well, I mean, I guess it's a trader fish. So maybe we should have done fish first, then wheat, then granary, then wheat. I'll be curious if this player is keen on building an early granary. When I play Babylon, or any nation that starts with administration, I often put my granary down as quickly as possible. Some players don't like to do that because they worry about the compounding effects of the wood cost, but I think it's well worth it to start investing in your granaries early. Okay, we got our first technology, which I believe was divination, yes. And it looks like we have free worker to choose from. Military drill, aristocracy, or we could go straight to metaphysics. I'll be curious the choice here. I think free worker would be good. I think military drill and aristocracy are good picks. We're going straight for aristocracy. Makes sense. Get some science up and more science up and running. Let's head on back over to the Hittites before the turns pass over. We opted for stone cutting with the Hittites. We're 2 turns away from that, and we're going directly to building... Ooh, interesting. Our first citizen is actually going to be a pearl fisherman. So this tells me... Normally, I actually have no problem building a net guy right away, or an early specialist. You can tell I've been casting all day. You know, a net guy. An early specialist. But normally I would put it in the fish or in the wheat farm. So going for the pearls tells me I think this player is really aiming for high culture, high income to start with. He'll get this pearl, which is a preferred luxury of the trader seat anyway. And he has the fair. So this pearl will be equal to, what is that, 7 culture? Yeah. Is 2 for just being sent to the city. It's an additional bonus culture for being the preference of that city, of that family, right? And then the fair itself is going to be another 4 culture. So that pearl is going to get us 7 culture, and then an additional 4 culture from the tile itself. So that, in all total, that's going to be, this improvement is worth 11 culture in the capital. So it's an unconventional grab, in my opinion. However, it's a pretty solid grab. I think I like the idea behind that. We want to pay attention as the game goes on to how Ant leverages his culture growth in the city. Does he have anything fun like Judge Governors? He doesn't quite yet. But that's a really nice governor to plop in there. It looks like we married this character as well. A Delver who's gracious and impulsive. So we're making decent civics per turn off of him. Let's go check out Babylon and see if we have any marriages over there yet. No marriages. It looks like we've adopted an heir. Yes, we are a schemer, so we adopted our heir immediately. No, we have an affable diplomat we can put as governor. That could be well worth it. We do have the civics. We could also put the governor up here. Did we get our trade network online? All right, so it looks like we left some clouds out here on the coast. So Larsa is currently not connected to the capital, which is a bit unfortunate. We kind of want a fog bust over here. No reason with this coastline not to take advantage of the easy capabilities of connecting all your cities. In fact, all of the cities on this map will have no issue connecting to the capital if you clear and explore the full coastline. The Hittite settler has made it to the location. I always like paying attention to these tiny little nuances. Sometimes they can add up to big changes over the course of the game. Sometimes they're just entirely inconsequential. But I think it's cool to notice tiny things like the Hittite player putting his city on this tile, but the Babylonian player put his city one tile towards the farms, you know? Tiny little changes like that. So for the Babylonian player, his city center is actually right here. In that particular situation, it's probably not going to amount to much of anything in terms of real difference. But it's always interesting to see the ways tiny little micro decisions like that can add up over time and convert themselves to advantages in ways that you might not traditionally suspect. Landowner's family has been brought in by the Hittites. So I think this is going to have a lot of strategic value on this map with its tile buying. We can go get these gold resources pretty easily if we want. We can get this iron all the way far up here if we would like to reach for that. Lots of different options. No settlers coming out of Patty. Turn 8. We went straight for a worker from the landowner city. I think I would have opted for a settler myself. But there is a lot of farms here, so I can understand worker from the Babylonians and a new settler. I'm unfamiliar with the skill level of these players. I have not played either of them. Unless, I'm actually unfamiliar. I wonder if Fiddler is the Fiddler that I have played before. Do we have two Fiddlers in the Discord servers? I'm not actually 100% sure. I feel like this is a different Fiddler, because I think he used to have it. I think the other Fiddler had a different icon. So I may have actually played this player before. This player might have been in the previous tournament. I can't remember. And if so, my apologies to Fiddler. And welcome back. Let's see if we remember. We have 5 orders left. We want to see this luxury get assigned this turn. Plenty of orders to spend. We got control 6 farms as an ambition. Very doable since we're building another worker. 2 other workers. No settlers coming out of Tusa for a 3rd city. Okay. And we are not assigning a luxury. That is unfortunate. We could get ourselves 7 culture, yeah. 7 culture and 3 happiness in the city. Oh. It looks like we bought an order, but I don't know what we spent it on. Moving the scout? Alright, so that would be my first tip for Ant in this situation. If you're going to go through the trouble of getting this Fisher up and running, of course scouting early is important, but you had 5 or 6 orders to spare before you started running around scouting, so no real reason not to toss this in your capital. Again, it's worth 7. Oh wait, where did he send it? Oh no. Alright. He sent it to a family. That's fascinating. And he didn't even send it to the trader's family. Alright, so I'm just going to say it. I think this is a mistake, especially early on in the game. Luxuries can be used to help mend family opinion, for sure, especially if it's the preferred luxury. But now he's going to get a penalty if he ever tries to remove this luxury from the family. I think you get like a minus 20 opinion for taking the luxury away from them after it's set up. But more importantly, as pointed out already on the stream, but this is mostly for Ant's sake if he ever reviews this footage, you basically just tossed away 7 culture and 3 happiness per turn in your capital, which I think this is an extra 20 opinion, right? Yeah, 20 from our luxuries for the landowners. That culture is going to be way, way more worth it. So that's all right, though. one of the great thing about watching these casts back, if you are one of the players in the match, and of course if you're joining us live or after the fact and you're trying to get tips and tricks about the game yourselves, that's one of the great thing about having commentary as you're playing the game. You might be thinking of one, train of logic that informs your decision making, and you'll make a couple of choices, and you'll be like, all right, I got my pearls. I'm going to send them to my landowner's family because reasons, and then you'll be able to go back and look at a cast and learn an entirely different thing that maybe you could have done with those, pearls or whatever other decision you might have made, and you learn new options or new avenues. Maybe there's a trick he's working on that even I'm unfamiliar with. It's entirely possible. I also learn new things through the process of watching players play, which is why I enjoy doing it. So it'll be interesting to maybe ask Ant about that in the post-game chat. Our players, I believe, did opt for a slow timer. Yes, they did. That's all right. And we're opting for the Shine of Naboo. That's going to be an extra science. Nice to get that out early for the Babylonians or anyone who has a science shrine. To be honest, I always forget to build this early enough. It ends up being turned 20, 25, and I realize I still haven't even built the science shrine for some reason, and that's always annoying. More workers. Looks like we went for the free worker from... All right, so we're going to have a lot of workers in Babylon, in Patty. That's fascinating. We do have a scout, sorry, a tactician, so clearing should be all right. Looks like we're going to have a little bit of trouble on this camp, potentially. Be curious to see what decisions we make here. Depending on these players' skill level, they may not be used to modest tribes. Some players play with, oh, sorry, not modest tribes, modest prosperity. So they may be used to having a few more orders at this point in the game. Ooh, getting rhetoric early. I don't hate that decision. Exploration is valuable. Do we have fish on the map? I'm always looking for fish when it comes to coastal games. Doesn't look like we have fish, which is unfortunate. Fish is really good for exploration events because it has a very high probability of giving you a science event if you harvest it with a scout. But you need exploration in order to do it. So, a little bit of setup there. That's one of the reasons why I'm always looking for fish, though. When it comes to coastal exploration. Alright, on to the Babylonians. Still hunting for barbarian camps. So this is the known world according to Babylon. And this is the known world according to the Hittites. The Hittites are aware of 2 extra camps down south. And Babylon is still searching for extra camps to clear in their neck of the woods. Oh, it looks like we saged into military drill. That's a fantastic sage grab. That's a really, really fantastic sage grab. Military drill is such a high value tech in these duels, and I think it's just exceptionally awesome not to have to tech it yourself. Because in a weird way, even though it's so important, it feels like it's out of the way of other stuff that you're trying to grab, like maybe going up to navigation, or if you're doing a land consolidation beeline, or if trying to do stirrups as like the Hittites. Military drill always feels, as important as it is, it always feels as it's out of the way of everywhere else. So saging into military drill is just fantastic, because now the Babylonians don't need to worry about it, which is good. Good for them. New settler out from Babylon, and we are actually opting for a fisher now for the capital of Babylon. Gonna have to keep an eye on what they do with it. All right, we're cutting it close here, but I think we'll be able to kill this camp in 3 hits, and it will be stunned. So we're going to take one more set of damage from this camp, and then we will be able to clear it with no issue before it spawns a new unit and or upgrades. All right, we have a granary coming down. I like the nice early granary from the Hittites. And honestly, we'll be leveling up our culture next turn, so I'd like to see the second granary go down. Back to the Babylonians across the side of the map. We found and located the tribal sites, the barbarian sites that remain for us to clear. It's going to be tough to clear with just one slinger. So he'll have to get a unit. Oh, he's going for it, though. All right, so he's banking on a crit here. If he can get one crit in the next 2 hits. Actually, he can clear this in 4 turns. He's going to take some damage. He'll take 7 damage per turn. So he'll be dead in 3 hits. He needs to get onto this urban tile to blunt some of that damage. But if he can get a crit in his next hit, I think he can survive this clear. But he does need a settler to come save his life. And this settler is not moving north. So, all right. We have hunters chosen. Really hoping to see a sentinel slinger. Oh, we go for worker. Damn. Okay. That's all right, but it's not ideal because he's going to have to keep clearing these camps, and it's going to get a little bit harder without military units. Fortunately, his opponent is not military-minded. We have a little light on the military from these players early on, which is, it's great as long as both players are doing it. It's actually great for both players. It allows them to both greed and not worry about somebody coming to beat the crap out of them quickly. All right, we have a stun. Yes, and so this camp is going to get cleared. It's ironic because it's almost a little backwards. This camp is going to get cleared, but we're still going to wait 5 turns for a settler. And then this side already has 3 cities. So we're up on expansion over the Hittites when it comes to Babylon. But I really don't think we're going to be able to succeed in clearing this camp. So we have a little bit of a better clearing situation on one side, but not as fast settling, versus faster settling, but not as good clearing. Shrine of Nabu nearly finished. Stone cutting nearly secured for the Babylonians. Where did we go next on Hittites? I forget. We went to Rhetoric. We're still working on Rhetoric. It's interesting because this is not a huge map or anything, right? It's not really the biggest map, but because the cores and these kind of central play areas for each player are so far apart, it feels like such a journey to get from one side of the map to the other. Kind of funny to me. Ooh, we got a happiness event. Maybe we harvested some jade. There's jade up there. Doing some more harvest. I want to check out the cognomens for our players. Not yet. The Gatherer on the Hittites. We did change for a slinger that's nice. Did we already put a turn of worker? We put a turn of worker, but then eventually chose to change to a slinger, and I think that's the right call. I think maybe Babylon's aware of the fact that they're going to have trouble clearing this camp. I think he's still trying to roll on that crit, but he didn't get it. So this is going to be the issue, is he's going to take another 7 damage, and if he gambles on a crit next turn, then that slinger's going to die. So hopefully we'll see that player back off. But, I mean, he can be bold. And try to gamble on the crit. If he gets it, what's their crit chance? It's a 21% chance to crit. I mean, I could believe in that. I can get behind that. Oh man, that would be so awful if he tries to get that crit and then it doesn't happen. So the correct move is to back off. But if he gambles, I'll have all the admiration for the bold play of gambling on a 20% crit for a faster clear time. That would be funny to see. All right, we have some farms coming up. Really nice farming location for the landowner's family. Gonna plop once you can put a farmer in this situation, in this territory, you can get a nice, amazing granary in this spot. Oh, and look at this. I love the migrating worker. That's awesome. That is great. Because we already have 3 workers in the cap, which, given the size of the capital, is overkill. So there's really no reason not to do exactly this and migrate a worker forward and help improving this growth territory. I'm not sure how I really feel about the treasury, but, I mean, mostly because I think we need another unit at this stage. We could build another set. Yeah, no, we need another unit at this stage because we want to clear 1 more site. This guy's going to need to heal up. There's going to be a spawned unit and an upgrade from this camp. So a warrior coming out of the city would be better. And then by the time the warrior's finished, you'll have 3 farms laid out by this tile and even a granary laid out. So you have all of this growth up and running. Then you can crank out more settlers from this location and or more workers. And you have a lot to work with. So a little light on military from both players. But again, as long as both players are doing it, then that's actually fine. Really going to keep an eye on this slinger. Alright, yeah, he's backing off. That's the correct play. He gambled on 2 crits. No worries. But, ooh, he got Herbalist. He has Herbalist on his ruler. That's pretty amazing. So he can actually run right back out. There will be a little healing on this camp, but he can run right back out and try to kill it. So that's actually great. We'll take another 7 damage, though. But again, if he gets a crit, I don't know. Maybe he shouldn't. I think I'd wait for the other slinger. I'm not really feeling this. Hard to say. Hard to say. It'll be interesting the choices that they make for the 5 city sites, because each player only has access to 5 city sites. There's 10 on the map, which is the bare minimum for tournament play. If we had less than 10 cities, we would have encouraged the players re-roll their map. They could choose to play on if they want to, but we want at least marginally decent empire sizes for our player. So we try to encourage players not to go less than 5. Of course, I did not mention to the players how many city sites are on the map. We only encourage players to reroll if it's less than 10. So we had exactly 10, so I did not encourage a reroll. We are seeing this. Ooh, oh, there's a farm next to Funky Town. Apparently we've renamed our cities. Okay, I would have preferred a granary here. Double granary on these wheat would be clutch. So we have some efficiency issues out of the Hittites so far. Missed an opportunity to get a really amazing luxury in the capital early on, especially since we sprang for this Fisher pretty much first build in the capital after the settler. So I think that's a missed opportunity. Really liking to see the Flatland Quarry. I'm a huge proponent of getting your quarries up and running early, so that's efficient to me. But we're tossing a little bit more efficiency by not taking the opportunity of already being developed and then plopping down yet another granary to boost this double wheat location. Going double granary like that is really, really clutch. We have 2 turns on a border boost for the Babylonians, and we're building another slinger in Larsa. I like that. I think building up on this military is going to pay off. We really want to make sure we can clear both of these sites, especially since, while we, the Babylonians, don't necessarily know this, since there are so few city sites on the map, the quicker you get to your max, you can start focusing on development. Maximizing your development potential. Lots of wealthy resources in the center of the map. Gold and silver on both sides, and then 2 sorghum. I have no how to say it, and I honestly have no idea how to say that word now that I think it. It looks like our friend Ant is renaming different things on the map as well. So that's fun. All right. 2 turns away from a settler in this location. I would expect... See what he does here. Because with that settler almost being finished, there's no real reason to hang around. You could come up here, chop some stuff. You could heal. You could be chopping with his scout. In fact, this is the perfect type of map to come across to your opponent's territory and deny them woods. Especially against a Babylonian player who's going to need to rely on woods if they want to bring in their unique unit. So some fantastic harass potential from the Hittites against the Babylonians. Two other games live at the moment for players who want to go around to the Discord and check what's available. All just started in the last hour. And of course, if you're watching after the fact on YouTube, you can go to the official Mohawk Games YouTube channel and check out the tournament playlist over there to catch up with all of the different games. And you can go to Discord and check out, in fact, actually in the description of this video is a link to Per Ank, which is our tournament app. And that should link you directly to a schedule page that will show you all upcoming scheduled games if you ever want to catch one of these games live in the event you're watching on YouTube and missed the opportunity. Very close to an ambition with the Babylonians. We have control 20 coastal tiles. We have 16 out of 20. So just 4 more tiles will do it. We could collapse these borders. Oh, our border boost just did it. Great. Fantastic. So we just get an ambition, our first ambition done for the Babylonians, and some solid border boosting, some solid coastal pathing between Babylon and Dur Athara. We have a nice, happy little core here. We're going to be waiting on these military units to finish before we can advance. I'd like to probably see another settler just coming out of the capital, to be honest. And I'm going to keep an eye out for what we see. We're going right back at it with the ruler without any support. A bit unfortunate because now they're the melee unit to join the fray. So we're going to take 10 damage now. We're going to have to immediately back off. But I guess, you know, it's going to get us some experience on our ruler. In fact, it looks like we may have just leveled up. Be curious what education we pick for the Hittite heir. Settler almost finished in Funky Town. This camp is going to upgrade, so I do not believe... Well, one thing he could do, is he could try to take this scout over here to drag these melee units away from the camp, and then take them out one by one with the tactician using stun. So that would be a way to clear this camp with only one unit. It would take more time, but you could get away with it. All right, so 10 damage, 11 damage onto this ruler. A little bit of struggle with clearing these camps. But again, interestingly, we're one camp behind on the Babylonians, but we're up one city. But that'll get evened out very quickly. Hittites will be at 4 cities in no time. I'm pretty sure he's going to go for a settler right after the treasury. And we're back. Yeah, we're back to Larsa with the ruler on the Babylons to heal up again. Two turns to rhetoric for Babylonia. Sorry, for the Hittites. Good food economy. What are we looking at in terms of food economy here for both players? 69 for the Hittites, 34 for Babylon. And see, even like I said, the Flatland Quarry in Babylon, there's only one. There's -1 stone. And do we even have stone cutting? We do have stone cutting, but no quarries down. But in Hattusa, we have positive stone income already. We have a Delver governor to help that as well. So really dig in the Flatland Quarry. Just start generating a decent income. You know, put 2 or 3 in a triangle and call it a day. You don't need to wait for volcanoes or mountains. Just get the stone flowing. Help your economy long term because you're buying less. If you're buying less, the prices go up less. It was having a similar situation down here with a flatland mine. Just trying to get his base income resources online. Opting for drama with the Babylonians. Interesting choice. Could see some culture play a role in this game. We do have our slinger up and running. We have access to the fierce promotion if we want it, or bloodthirsty. Both could come in handy while trying to clear these camps. We could put on a decent tactician general. We opted for the tactician. We do have pearls in Babylon, well, in Babylonia, but they have not yet found their way to a city. A little disappointing. Our players have met now, so we know both players are now aware that we're dealing with a tactician versus a schemer. And they can see each other's stats. So we have an herbalist tracker schemer and a tracker besieger. Sword of the Gods for this tactician. Okay, maybe he could clear this site by himself now. That's pretty great. Nice early Sword of the Gods. That's actually good news for Babylon. Having it early on the ruler, who's 36 already, means it shouldn't linger around too often. I don't really think Babylon's in the position to run across the map and threaten, although he is a tactician, so maybe. But he probably doesn't want to do that. So, nice to have the Sword of the Gods event trigger early when your opponent's not really in a position to attack you. Of course, sometimes they can trigger early precisely when they are in a position to attack you. A bit of a roll of the dice on that one. Another worker migrating. And another flatland quarry. I'm really big fan of this. So it's nice. It's nice to see, because we have seen some efficiency of Ant, but then some other areas where, you know, he could maybe have made some better decisions. So, and that's what I like, because I think every player has, brings different skills to the table, but I think we can all learn different techniques from each other through talking or watching each other play the game, and that's what makes these really fun. Because even I myself make plenty of mistakes and learn new tips and tricks from other players all the time, even though I played a gazillion hours in this game. That's what makes it cool. I'm going to take one quick second to step away from the computer real quick. All right, I am back. Apologies for the interruption. Thank you for still being with us, and we're finally making progress up on this camp. Although we took another 10 damage, so we're going to have to back off, but then move this guy up and juggle a little bit. So that'll be fun to watch. And we have our crazy Sword of the Gods ruler. He's going to start putting in some serious work here. He's only going to take a little bit of damage from the camp because the melee units can't yet reach him, which is nice. And then he should be able to make quick work of the camp and melee units through counter. Interesting tech choices here for the Babylonians. Comp bow could be a very early archer push. That would come out by turn 30. We already have a handful of slingers on the map. That could be incredibly difficult for a player to deal with early on. Monasticism, it could always be a good grab if we are pressing to get Zoroastrianism, which it doesn't look like at the moment, but that could come in handy both for monasteries, but also for spreading your shrines around. The Babylonians have some pretty decent economic shrines, so I think they're one of the nations that can benefit from spreading their shrines around quite a bit. Civics and science and growth, I believe it is. And they're opting for monasticism. Okay, cool. I can get behind that. If not polytheism, then it can mean orders from monotheism if they do end up opting to get Zoroastrianism. That tech drop feels bad to you. Interesting. Not a fan of archer wretches? I don't know. Comp bow by turn 30 seems fine to me. Zoffister in chat is saying that hand seems like a bad hand to him. I think I would totally take comp bow by turn 30. We already have military drill through sages. So that means you can start cropping up full barracks and ranges complexes by turn 40. Like completely finished. We already have a law because we start with a law as Babylon. Not start with the law, but with the ability to adopt it. So we already have exploration. So that means garrison surrounded by 2 barracks 2 ranges. That's 9.9, basically an order per city. I think I would take that. And then we would have a free ballista coming along the way, which admittedly you don't really want to march a free ballista into the Hittites because you don't know how fast their culture is going to ramp up. We can assume that's actually another thing we're missing out by not putting the pearls in the capital is really, really rapid access to our early heavy chariots. So that's unfortunate. Oh no, we had an upgraded camp. This is a nightmare for Babylon. All right, we'll have a third slinger coming on. So we're going to give this one more try, and I think we'll be able to come up and take a kill, which is nice. I think he wants to come in this direction so the melee unit can't whack him. So if the ruler comes here, takes this kill, this guy can back off and heal. And keep juggling that and try to clear that camp, I guess. Starting to build some mines, which is nice, getting that metal income up. But this is we're seeing the Babylonians exercise a problem that I have. Oh no, we're getting one quarry, but I still think this is an issue because it's like I feel like we waited to get like this ideal quarry placement when it's like we had other opportunities. We could do quarries along here. I guess we didn't have workers yet. But that's why I really appreciated the Hittite player migrating workers and opting for flatland quarries, because he's just trying to get any amount of income is better than no income. So I appreciate that. Wow, he didn't go in and secure the kill. The Babylonian player. He could have done that and taken only 2 hits from this. But I guess you might as well just wait. Come back at full strength. We have the Slinger coming out next turn. He's probably sick of dealing with this camp, so I don't blame him. Yeah, archer wretches are totally a thing. You can get, with a sage nation like Babylon, and certainly with a lucky roll, but even without the lucky roll, or with somebody like Assyria and maybe a schemer, you can get archers up and running inside of 30 or 40 turns. It's a gambit sort of thing. You need to know that you can kind of start reaching your opponent and immediately harassing them early. But basically the idea is you expand and then have all of your cities build a slinger, which is relatively cheap. You do some chopping, you mass upgrade all of those, 6 to 8 slingers into archers. And next thing you know, it's turn 35 or 40 and you have nearly 10 archers or whatever, and your opponent might not be prepared to deal with that. Oh, and the free ballista tell. So, you probably don't want to do that against the Hittites, because even with just their culture, right, propping up, eventually they're going to have 3 heavy chariots hit the map, and you can get those out by turn 40-ish. So, routing would be your biggest weakness there, and of course terrain. But archers are really difficult. Mass archers, specifically, are really difficult to deal with. Getting stone boost. Actually, you know what I haven't done? I haven't checked the wonders on the map, so let's do that. We have the pyramids. We have access to the pyramids, the ziggurat, the oracle, the hanging gardens, and the Jerwan aqueduct. So lots of weak wonders up for grabs. Nobody's made a play on the wonders yet. We have the lighthouse on the board. Colossus, the Chthon could be interesting because there's lots of coastal territory out here. Like, this is all wide open ocean. You could make some interesting anchor plays. Like, here is our rider seat. We could anchor along this coast, not even along the coast, but anchor into this deep ocean, right? Put a bireme here, bireme right here. And I think we'd maybe need 4 biremes. But you could bridge this gap with 4 biremes, and until you plop this anchor down, your opponent might not even know that you're out here. So I would love, love, love to see one of our players capitalize on a player like that. Either one of them could achieve this by setting up an anchor network kind of spreading out into the deep ocean and then coming back this way rather than along the coast. Stage in this type of location, either right here or right here, and then once your final anchor drops, you could do like a feint attack up north. let's say you're the Babylonians. You send your primary army right here. You get boats all out in the water. Keep a boat about out here off the coast. You do a feint attack across the plains. A couple units, get your opponent looking this way, getting them in a fight, maybe even start them chasing you. They're like, oh, I'm winning the fight, I'm winning the fight. So now they're assaulting this city where you have some good defense, some forts up. This is all convoluted, by the way, but this is the way I think about combat. I know this probably sounds so convoluted, but this is the type of stuff that I do. And then, once they're all right here and they're thinking that they're winning the fight, you bring this boat that you saved out along this coast and you anchor it. And he realizes, oh, that's interesting. Either he doesn't even notice it because it's not even what he's focusing on. People can miss anchors all the time. It happens to me plenty of times. Or if he does notice it, he realizes he's not in a position to turn around immediately. And the next thing you know, the force that you've had staged here the entire time blitzes into this city, and there's not much your opponent can do about it. Again, that's a very convoluted play, but it would be awesome to see a player do. That's the type of stuff I live for. Feint attacks, surprise attacks, baits, all my jam. I love when my opponent tells me in a game, wow, I thought I had you, but the next thing I know, oops. It's like, well, yeah, because I wanted you to think you were winning. Sometimes it's a little telegraphed. Often if you have the opportunity to kill one of my scouts, it's probably not a smart idea. We have a garrison coming out online for the Hittites. I want to pay attention to that, actually. We have one garrison coming out online, another garrison. So 2 garrisons in our cities. We are opting for this granary here, too. I really, again, like the use of the migrating workers. It's unfortunate. We probably should have included a builder here, because with a builder, your off-type workers are going to still work at the same speed as a regular family worker, because they shave that turn off. But I really like the solid development here. Of migrating the workers towards your other cities. Interesting, this one's choosing to go north instead. All right, no big deal. Nice. This Sword of the Gods tactician is going to do huge damage to this melee unit, but only take 1 in return. Because of the river, by the way. Even though the river's there, we can do plenty of damage crossing the river. Look at that. That's a massive amount of damage. Seeing some interesting Sword of the Gods play so far in this tournament. Which wonder would I buy first? That's a great question. If I were Babylon, I would try to do the Jerwan, which my only place to do that would be here, because Babylon in Jerwan and Sages is quite nice. If I were the Hittites, I'd probably prioritize the pyramids. Pyramids is always a good choice, so Babylonians can prioritize that as well. Babylonians grabbing the Hanging Gardens is also quite nice too, and thematic, of course, but the 40% growth, if you combine it with their base 20% at their national bonus, it gets pretty gross. And then if you adopt freedom, that's a 60% growth boost in all of your cities, which is just insane. And we have really good growth in these locations anyway, so you could do quirky militia, scout, conscript plays. That could be fun. Or just get a crap load of citizens and keep developing your specialist game. In fact, speaking of which, let's check on science. Huge science lead for the Babylonians. 44 science to 20. So we have Ant really falling behind there. And currently over double science invested in the tech tree total. Of course, I think that's going to factor in the Sages boost. You know, their free bonus technology there, but nonetheless, that's a steep hole to be in at the moment. Of course, schemers are always going to start with a lot of science. That one schemer is giving us something like 9 science per turn. So you're always going to start in a hole when you're dealing with a schemer, and you can recover. You just really need to be science-minded. So I'm not sure I'm necessarily feeling the forum here. I do like forums. And I have built them first build in a city, but usually when I already have a worker in that city, if I've been migrating them. So maybe this trader is going to move down in a moment, in which case I'll hate the forum less. Babylon does have eyes on this clearing. He does know the tactician is, well, a tactician, and he does know that it has Sword of the Gods. So he is aware that this is a threat, and he should steer clear of this side of the map for now. Although 3 slingers could kick the crap out of that guy, I think. Maybe not with the Sword of the Gods, I guess. Yeah, they only do 3 damage. Although it has 11 health, so that'd be risky. You could zone lock this and kill it, even with just 3 slingers at this stage, at the health it's at. Man, yeah, poor Babylon, taking a beating from this camp. Building another slinger, like to see that. Building another settler, like to see that. Going for the elder shopkeeper. All right, what are we having for governors? We should be adding in our diplomat here, or our princess. Yeah, we've had an affable diplomat this whole time, and they never found their way into the capital. So always be mindful of your possible governors. Of course, we could be saving up our civics to get the law off of monasticism early. So that's fair. Other wonders I might think about racing or getting early would be the lighthouse. We are both traders nations. I might be inclined to think, although I've done some scouting at this point, so maybe I know there's not too many fish resources on the map. But getting that edge can always be helpful, especially if you're trying to culture rush against another nation that has traders. All right, success for Babylon. We've cleared the hillside city site. Our 4th city will be coming online. What's interesting, again, going back to the dichotomy of clearing versus settling, we're not too far behind. Hittites just settled this site. But of course, this site will be cleared soon as well. Babylon being cheeky, keeping their schemer scout right out in the open. Going back up for a heal up. We're going to keep keeping an eye on these build queues. I think we have some decisions to make. More workers. I would like to be seeing full investment in the farmers here. And the reason I feel that way is because we're looking for more science at this stage in the game. This landowner city has a very easy time of just really ramping up its science production very quickly because it's making massive growth, which we just paused by building a worker, and we can build farmers in just 2 turns, and any other rural specialist in about 2 or 3 turns. So that's one science that you can trickle into this city every 2 to 3 turns, maybe 4 turns at max, and that's really not that's really not a bad rate of science growth, especially while you're getting other yields along with it, getting tons of other yields. Science is our current weak point. Do we know that? Yes, our opponent is stronger and erudite, so we would want to be... And we know that they're a schemer. So if you're up against a schemer and you're not a schemer, you can reliably expect to have your opponent basically be erudite to you for the first half of the game, which is totally okay. But what that means is that you need to have a science plan to catch up and or overcome them, because you don't want the science to snowball for their side. So you need to work a little bit extra hard to hit your benchmarks and keep your science flowing. And again, we do have twice as much science on the Babylonian side of the map. It's literally twice as much. It's 21 science in Hattie and 42 science in Babylon. So actually, on that note, the Jerwan Aqueduct could be a fantastic grab for the Hittites, because the Jerwan Aqueduct is one of the only few science-based wonders, and we consider it a science-based wonder because it guarantees you, anywhere from 3 to 5 extra specialists for free in a city, all of which will generate science. So even though it's like a growth and food and all that too, we tend to interpret it as an early game science wonder, which is why it synergizes very nicely with the sages, because they'll get an extra science for each farmer that lands in the city. Not opting for a granary here is something I'm probably not a fan of. I understand the quarries. I would have just moved one step further, because you still would have only spent 1 order to get to this tile, and you still could have plopped down a quarry. I think I get the urge to add to spam the quarries like this, but I think a 3-tile granary boost is really, really hard for me to pass up. Yeah. Oh, crap. And we did lose the slinger. That's not ideal. That's not ideal. We have another one on the way, which is nice. We do have another one on the way, which is nice. Okay, opting to heal the tactician once more. Still no extra military units coming out. We went forum into treasury. Again, not sure I'm really a fan of that specifically, but on the flip side, at least we did opt to migrate this worker down here. So we are still developing this territory. A little bit of extra orders to do it, but I'm digging. I have to admit, I'm actually digging the migrated worker play, because the capital is almost fully developed. We actually have a wonder in the capital. We went for the Oracle. This is also technically a science wonder, because it does open you up to agent networks for free later on when you get Spy Master, but also having an extra card in your hand speeds up the rate with which you cycle through your deck, which actually makes your science pace slightly faster. It's something like a 20% increase in science rate, something like that, overall on average, if you get the Oracle. And that's really hard to map out, because it's not actually generating raw science for you at all. But it does increase the pace with which you travel through the tech tree, which is neat, actually. How's the politics? Politics in Babylon's pretty solid. Hunters like us just cuz. Both Schemer and Influence. We are using Influence missions. Cool to see that. Pagans like us. Also because we're a Schemer. Fun fact. If you like having Schemers in your empire, Babylon is the most prolific Schemer generating nation in the game. I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe it is the only nation that has traders, hunters, and artisans. Nope, the Kushites have that too. Don't they? They do. They swap out sages and landowners. Okay, so those two nations, and so anyway, the reason for that is schemers are common in traders, hunters, and artisans families. So if you were to give yourself a trader, hunter, artisan nation, you'd actually have the most likely chance of generating schemers in your empire if you were looking to do that. Of course, it only really makes sense to do that if you're going to get portcullis at some point. But certainly something to think about, an option that you have in the toolkit. Did we get comp mode back on? We did. Okay, great. All right, back to the action. We opted for epics. Okay, that's kind of cool. I think we're going to have... We're only making culture one culture per turn, and yet we're almost at developed. So I think between harvesting and epics, that's actually helping us out get a second developed city. So I kind of dig it. I'm becoming more and more intrigued by epics. I probably wouldn't consider it in this map, but if you have a larger map where you know you're going to be clearing regularly, it can actually funnel culture into the cities as you settle and clear, which I think is pretty useful. Exploration is obviously the better law of the two, but I think epics does have its uses. One more harvest and we complete our first ambition for the Hittites. We are doomed. All right, so we did it. Oh, it's the second ambition for the Hittites. Nice. So just in time for us to die. We are crippled, ill, and doomed, so we are not long for this world. But fortunately, we kind of did a good job of clearing this site down to its last unit. We will be spawning a unit next turn. And we'll start to take more damage, so we really, really need a new military unit. And, like, this rider seat should have built a warrior right away. 6 turns, we would have had it by now. We already put 2 turns in the treasury. The forum was 4 turns. So this turn, we would have had another warrior to come finish this camp off. But we're going to have to wait like 8 turns. So, I think if Babylon is keen to keep an eye on his opponent, there could very easily be a window. Because we have... Oh, we have an error here. We have a big error. Let's check out the scouting here. This is the known world of the Hittites. And this is the known world of the Babylonians. And the issue that this is creating for the Hittites is kind of a big deal. Because the Hittites are coming down here with a settler completed, prepared to settle this site. Oh, we didn't die. So maybe we'll die next turn. That's nice. That's good for us. But what is the issue with this? The issue with this is the capital of Funky Town, by the way, is building another settler. So through lack of scouting, or lack of reading, the ability to read the mirrored map situation that they're in, the Hittites have not yet realized that they have no place else to send that settler. Unless they want to get really cheeky and contest this site. But they have no sites on their map, on their side of the map, that allows them to settle with this incoming settler. So that's a waste of 100 food and the build time. They could have been a worker, but it isn't. We have a settler that just came out of Larsa. We could build another one in 4 turns, or we could opt for the free settler. It looks like we're opting for the free settler. I actually think I would have hard built it and just gone towards sovereignty, honestly. Sovereignty would have been 5 turns. Hard building a settler would have been 4 turns. So we're trading 4 turns of build queue for 2 turns in the science. And maybe I'd prefer sovereignty. Although, we do have a free camel archer in the deck, and we're making 50 science per turn. I would love... I cannot express how much I would love it if Fiddler... What's our heir? Our heir is a scholar. That's unfortunate. If Fiddler got a free camel archer as a sort of pseudo-unique unit. Use his scouting, his visualization that he can see. He knows what the Hittites are up to and what they can do. And that they're weaker. Imagine if he just came across the way with a camel and started harassing. That would be amazing. That would be genuinely amazing. We're approaching turn 30. And this is the time frame that you want to be mindful of what your opponent could be capable of. So the Hittites are safe and fine sort of now, but you really, really, really need to start building more military units. And the reason is because turn 30 is one of the earliest opportunities. Oh, we have another tactician, so that keeps us safe. That's nice. Superstitious is not ideal. We're already having science issues. But we can get 80 science right now, so hopefully we'll take that. The giveaway, yeah, all right, we just took it. Great. And we should get divination next. 2 turns. Not too bad. Great. So that's a nice... Ooh, and we can get slavery for free. Let's see if we opt to do that. We didn't. What? Wild. That's wild to me. We could have been on our second law by now. I forget. I honestly can't even remember what the other choice is. Does anybody remember what the other choice is? The first choice is 150 discontent in the capital, I believe. And then you get slavery for free. I don't remember what the other option is. I think I always take slavery for free. Unless I'm like hell-bent on taking freedom. But a free law to me is a free law. Digging this flatland mine complex, really all about just getting income up and running. Not sure how I'm feeling about the miners, though, but I guess this turns this into a pseudo-military city. Maintains that flexibility that I was talking about, landowners capable of kind of being a flex family. So once these 2 farmers are down, we'll have similar training to this riders city. Not farmers, miners, forgive me. We have our... Well, it's our 3rd slinger, but technically it should be our 4th slinger, but we accidentally lost one in Babylon. Alright, let's pay attention to what we settle next. We have a traders, a sages, and a hunter. Please take the camel. I mean, realistically, he should do sovereignty or composite bow here, to be honest. But the camel would just tickle me tremendously. And we have enough of a science lead. Our opponent is naive to us, primitive to us. So that's the time where you can splurge on some bonus cards. We're opting for sovereignty. Fair play, I get it, makes sense. But man, I want that camel. Especially because you're up against the Hittites. That's basically an 8 strength unit against your Hittites. Like, actually, actually, I scratched that. Since the Hittites are our opponent, I actually think the camel is the correct choice right here. We don't need to beeline land consolidation. I don't think there are camels on the map anyway, now that I think of it. Yeah, there aren't even camels on the map, and we don't have riders. So that single free camel archer could deal a decisive blow when it comes to conflict towards the Hittites. Put, max promote it, put a strong general on it, protect it with other units like spears, and that can be your vanguard unit, your champion unit to deal with the 3-man chariots and everything else coming out of Hattie. So actually, this isn't about the memes anymore. This isn't about my entertainment. I actually legitimately think grabbing the free camel archer would be a sound investment for this game. Does look like we did secure... Oh, no, not yet. We're close to 4 law potential. So getting sovereignty will get us 4 law potential, so I definitely understand that grab. I think that camel could come in clutch. If we weren't against the Hittites, it would just be a fun meme. But camels really, really mess up mounted unique units. A camel is effectively like an 8 or 9 strength unit against a horse unit. On arid tiles, to be clear. So that means it holds up even with the 3-man chariot. Not even just the heavy. And that's some serious staying power. Sometimes you got to think about units like that. Like the free ballista is another one. One of the things that makes it so strong is, A, it's a ballista, then it's strong, but it also has staying power. A ballista will still mess up a maceman, will still mess up a longbow, out in the open anyway. So units that have staying power, if they're coming off of bonus cards, are definitely worth of a consideration. And I don't think the camel is always worth it, but if you're up against the horse nation, it can be. Looks like we had a hurricane along the northern coast. That's always fun. No real impact, it seems, which is great news for the Hittites. And we have a mercenary archer. That's great. We kind of need that. We're a little bit behind. We're actually now similar in power to our opponent. And we had to come back and heal. So both players struggling a little bit with clearing. But the one thing that I'm enjoying about this match, fortunately, is that despite the hiccups or speed bumps our players seem to be facing, they actually seem pretty evenly matched against each other. If I were to call out an advantage, I think it would give a slight advantage to Babylon for his science rate. But overall, in terms of the skill level of this matchup, I actually think our players are pretty evenly matched, which is cool. I think that's nice for a first-time, tournament matchup between two players when you don't have what feels like a clear or obvious skill gap, because that can sometimes be a little bit demoralizing. Of course, it's still early days in this game. Babylon could pop off once they hit their 4 laws. Of course, the Hittites could come out swinging later on once he hits his strong culture. In fact, we're 18 turns away from strong culture for the Babylonians. Oh, shit. And 62 culture away. What did the Babylonians do with the pearls? Put the pearls in Dur-Athara. So not... Both players have elected to ignore 7 culture and 3 happiness in their capital. Alright, so both players can get that lesson if they rewatch the stream. I have to say, in the case of Babylon, this makes more sense than the Hittite decision to send their pearls to the landowner's family. The reason why I think this makes more sense is because you definitely want developing culture in your military city so you can build strongholds and start producing unique units. We're going to hit 4 laws soon. So I actually do understand the pearls being in the hunter seat. It makes sense. It is a sensible decision. You are clearly making a trade for the massive culture spike in the capital. But this one actually makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is the Hittite player who sent his pearls directly to the landowner's family, not even the trader's family, the landowner's family. I'm not sure I quite understand that decision. Finally making progress on the final camp. Ironically enough, both players are still working on the final camp. So even though Babylonian fell behind, it's entirely possible that both nations could clear these final camps at the same time, opting for phalanx for the Hittites. Let's see if we have anything marked. We have machinery marked, actually. That's not too bad. Onagers against Babylon is pretty solid, I think. I mean, let's face it, onagers are always the right decision. Last tournament, beelining directly to hydraulics was a often utilized strategy. That overall strategy was nerfed in a couple of different ways that we don't need to bother getting into. However, it's still a pretty strong strategy, and onagers themselves are always a safe defensive bet. So early onagers won't complain about that, but we are going towards phalanx. We only have 15 science per turn on turn 31. I've talked about benchmarks before in this tournament, and I will do so again, so forgive me. But on average, you're hoping to get your science rate to match the turn you're on. So we have 15 science per turn of the Hittites. Oh, Jesus Christ. We needed to abdicate. We have a -4 wisdom ruler who's superstitious and insane. This is -6.4 science per turn. The only correct play in this situation, you could try to spam harvest to get yourself an early gatherer cognomum if you want. Maybe even stick around to get the resourceful if you're feeling a little greedy. But the absolute correct play in the Hittite situation, and I've been here before and I've done it before, and you can still win the game by dealing with this level of misfortune. But in my opinion, the only correct play here is to abdicate this ruler. Negative 6.4 science is brutal. We would get another tactation on the throne that would generate 2 wisdom, which is just to be 3.2 science, right? So let's math this out. 3.2 plus negative 6.4 or 6.4 total. That would be a nearly 10-point science swing for the Hittites just from abdication. So I know legitimacy and orders are concerned, but at this point, that's a hole that you need to not dig out of. You need to jump out of as quickly as possible. Climb, run, jump, vault out of that hole. And abdication is the way to do it. So we'll keep an eye out for that. See if the Hittites have the wherewithal to abdicate. Doesn't look like, because we're running influence missions. So don't think that if you end up with a bad ruler like this, that you're stuck and your game is ruined. You have a tool at your disposal. 100 civics, 10 legitimacy. It's not ideal. You don't want to have to pay this, but the tool and the option is there. And this is 100% the situation where you need to abdicate and just move on. Try with a different new ruler. Again, maybe try to get a quick cognomen out of them so the decay hurts less. And the gatherer would be the easiest one to get. Chop a bunch of woods, harvest a bunch of resources, spend 2 or 3 turns doing it, and then just abdicate as soon as you hit the gatherer. That will blunt the decay a little bit. Unfortunate, though, for the Hittites. This is pretty unfortunate. I guess that makes up for Sword of the Gods, though. He got that nice luck at the start. The gods give, and the gods taketh away in the old world. They bestow great fortune upon our champions and punish them for their ungrateful greed. We've rushed a festival. I'm not going to nitpick this because I do this myself. So I'll leave that one alone. I'm just hoping there's a plan behind that, but I've absolutely judged rush festivals for just to crank out citizens, so I'm not gonna criticize that. I think that's fair play if you know what you're doing and you have a game plan for it. So cool to see it. Cool to see it. We got traders up here. So I'm assuming we're going to bring this one in landowners, or I guess maybe riders. But if we don't do landowners, the landowners will be a little grumpy all game. Which could be annoying. Alright, forest fire in Babylon. Getting our garrison up, which is good. And we did get sovereignty. Be curious the law choice here. We have lots and lots of good choices. Did we ever get Zoroastrianism? Did I miss it yet? Nope. Still no Zoroastrianism. Turn 32, no Zoroastrianism. We have 3 matches in the tournament going on currently. Oh, my goodness. Who hosted this game? Crap. Is Babylon going to lose another unit? I hope not. But I mean, that's really good for the Hittites because they're a little behind now in this situation. They really need to deal with this ruler crisis. Honestly, you can take this option right here. 5% to become doomed. That would actually save you the civics of Abdication, I would take that. Ooh, you can become a schemer! We want that. We actually want this. I hope we swap to a schemer. We already took our stun for the round. Now's the time to do it. Come on. This will be a huge deal for the Hittites. That will dig them out of the science hole to the tune of about 9 science. Or maybe, wait, maybe I got that wrong. Maybe just 3 science. They can guess. Oh no, they stayed a tactician. Goodness. And they also just got a wisdom upgrade. Do they? Oh man, that's unfortunate. They could have had, they had -4. And they're now to -3, and then the schemer would have been +4, so I think they would have been +1 wisdom. Is that how that works, right? That to me is a big mistake. That event would have offered the solution to your science crisis. More miners, interesting. I've done this before. Not usually in the landowner's seat itself, but I have had spare landowner city just spam a few miners and just kind of become pseudo training hubs. We would love to see barracks on the Hittite side of the map, though, to complement that. Okay, cool. We're not going to lose a slinger. Fantastic. Two Sages City. I suspect this will be another Hunters, but we'll wait and see. Oh, you didn't need to move back. If you... Oh, wow. So that's interesting. All right, so I'm going to nitpick a little bit. Bear with me, Fiddler. But I feel like if you move this settler up and settled, you would have saved yourself the orders of moving behind, because then this unit could have sat in place and then healed right there. So, just something to think about in future matches. Every order is precious. You still can settle. Curious what our priorities are here. Yeah. Alright, so we do have enough orders to actually settle here, but I really think we would have saved, what was that, 2 orders, 3 orders, if we just sat in place and did not move and just healed this guy a few tiles up north. Little micro things like that add up. No big deal, though. We got the job done, and we're actually the first player on this map to 5 cities. So looking good for the Babylonians. We have a second wonder secured in Hattusa, or in Hatti, the pyramids. So that's a fantastic grab. And that's 2 wonders for the Hittites. Pretty greed heavy. But, I mean, that's great. That's really nice. Getting our transport network set up. Connecting a road here. We'll probably build this road directly across to this city as well. Makes sense. Of course, in one moment, we're going to realize that we can no longer utilize this settler. Really, really appreciating the migrated workers. I have to admit, again, it's not the most efficient thing in terms of raw order costs in the world. I would have liked to maybe have not built a forum and a treasury in the city, but I guess long term that's going to pay off quite a bit for having them so early, to be honest. But I do like the fact that even though we did make these decisions, we still were able to develop the city because we chose to migrate workers. And if we look back in the trader capital, we're very well developed up here. We're running out of space, in fact, to keep developing. So migrating those workers was not bad at all. Oh, we're building ranchers now, so Judaism will be on the table for our Hittite friends. 2 ranchers can go up here for a whopping 2 extra 2 orders in this city, which is quite nice. All right, turn 34. Both players are about to fully expand to the 5 sites in total that are on each side of their map. So now seems as good a time as any to do a total stat recap for the game itself as it stands. National wealth favors Babylon at the moment, although Hittites did just build their 2nd wonder, so I'm sure they've been pumping a lot of their wealth into that. So I suppose we'll call that even. No wonders on the Babylonian side at the moment. 12 population to 11 in favor of the Babylonians. 6 specialists in favor of Babylon, but I know we have a lot of rural specialists in that landowner seat. Workers is very likely... Oh, that's actually even. I thought it was going to favor the Hittites. But, yep, both players have 5 workers. Babylon has built 3 military units, but we know they've lost at least 1. We believe they built 3 slingers and they lost 1 slingers. So they actually only have 2 military units at the moment. And of course, the Hittites got themselves a free archer, which is quite nice. Two laws in Babylon, 1 law in Hatti. 10 technologies for the Babylonians. And let's remember that we do know the Babylonians have twice as much in science invested in the tech tree overall. So that's a bit of a hole. 10 technologies to 6. Economy is relatively even with 24 improvements to 22. Slight favor towards the Hittites. And again, science is... This is massive problem. This is a massive problem. 71 science on turn 34, which is great. Great job. Well past our benchmarks. Makes sense with a schemer. Makes sense with sages. But if we're the Hittites, we only have 18 science per turn on turn 35, which is just dreadful. Really, really hard to overcome. And the bigger issue isn't even our science rate, it's how it compares to our opponent. So our opponent is reaching a point where they're about to have 3 times as much science and tech invested in the tech tree as us. And otherwise, Babylon is having a tricky game, right? Which is good news for the Hittites. But the thing is that the Hittites aren't really doing anything too exceptional on their end. They're both having a very similar game in terms of economic pacing that we just looked at, in terms of, you know, economy, resources, military even. So both players are relatively stacked up on an even level, except you now have the Babylonians with 3 times as many science. They're getting machinery right now. That could prove to be an insurmountable issue for the Hittites in as little as the next 20 turns. Decent scouting from the Babylonians. They have eyes on the front. I mean, with a schemer, actually, I have to take that back, because with a schemer, you could explore all of this. You can get into your opponent's territory. So realistically, the Babylonian player should already have revealed this whole part of the map. Of course, they've been spending a lot of orders with their issues clearing, so that's slowed them down a bit. But I would like to see the Babylonian players scout a little bit more. Because they're invisible. There's no reason for them not to. All right. On the Hittite things, how are we doing on scouting? Hittites also need to step up on their scouting. The Hittites don't even know that they've built a settler for no reason. Because now we can't build any settlers, so now they will be aware that there are no more city sites on the map. They're stuck at 5 cities. Doing worker, master acolyte. And we still have a build queue left to assign. 3 turns on machinery now for the Babylonians. And we're going apprentice acolyte, so that will secure us Zoroastrianism, which is not too bad because we already have monasticism, so we can start getting monasteries up, which is even more science. The Babylonians. Our schemer is disgusting. We have an 8 wisdom schemer. This is worth 12, nearly 13 science on its own. We have a 9 science heir, another 10 science heir in Babylon itself. So from our ruling family, we're getting approximately 20 science or more, which is just crazy. That's really good. Conversely, we have this insane woman who's on the throne. I love this. She's inspiring, great. She's pious, fantastic. Superstitious, insane, prophet. So yeah. Okay. With stats like that, she may as well be a zealot. A pious, superstitious, insane prophet. I'm curious Fiddler's ability to read the map. Because we certainly have some, he's aware of where his opponent is. You can see the tactician. I wonder at what point Fiddler may feel like aggressing, or if he would wait until the later game and just make sure he builds up a solid advantage. We finally have garrisons coming online, which is nice, because then we want to add barracks to those. Game's moving at a little bit of a slower pace. That's quite all right. And I feel like the players are relatively even matched, but Babylon's clearly getting strong advantage here. Two wonders in Hattusha, not bad though. Honestly, I think Babylon has the economy to get a wonder if they want it. The Jerwan's still on the table. Honestly, at this stage, with this terrain, it might even be a fine idea to just plop the Jerwan here. Because this would be a 5 lush tile. It's still the hunter's seat, so not exactly where you want to put it, but hey, it's still 5 science and 5 lush tiles with farms on it, so why not, right? 2 of which are by a volcano, 1 of which is by a pastured, once we get husbandry, anyway, a pastured river. So that's a really, really beautiful location for a Jerwan aqueduct. I might be inclined to grab it and plop it there, even though it's not necessarily in a family city that I would prefer. Still a really great spot. All right, nice to see the Hittites building some warriors now. 6-turn warriors from the landowner seat. Six-turn warriors from the rider seat. The Oracle of... I love that. It's the Oracle of Funky Town. Really cool. All right, here comes the defining moment. This player needs to know not to accept ambitions that they can't complete. Do not accept the stockpile 5,000 gold ambition. It is often a trap. Capture 2 foreign cities. No! No. No. Oh, I need to go to sleep. All right. All right, forgive me. Ant, let's talk about this. This is important. Important lesson to learn. And this goes for all new or less experienced players watching these streams trying to get some tips. So the ambition thing, right? The correct play in that event choice, it was the bottom choice that would have not given you an ambition, and it would have just given you something like 2 legitimacy or something like that, if I recall. I don't really remember. But you can go back and check on the stream, I think. Anyway, the point being, the correct thing in that, the correct choice in that circumstance would have been not to take an ambition. And the reason for that is you don't want to take a bunch of ambitions that you can't complete. We're not going to take an opulence project. We can't complete it. We don't have a luxury. The one luxury we do have, we sent to a family, so we can't complete it. So this is going to fail. And let's consider it this way. An ambition is worth 10 legitimacy, right? If you fail an ambition, it subtracts 5 legitimacy, right? So if we hop back on over to the Hittites, take a look at this situation. This, by accepting and then failing this ambition, you can effectively say that you've just actually lost yourself 15 legitimacy, because it should have gained you 10, but it's actually going to subtract 5. Make a family furious? Can't do that. We could, but it would be a setback. With the insane ruler, I don't think we had much choice to do this. I forget what the other option is on that one. So he might have been forced to do this one. Nonetheless, this is another situation we're going to lose 15 legitimacy, effectively. And then capture 2 and foreign cities. This is a bad idea, because if you capture 2 and foreign cities, the game is over, right? And if you can't capture 2 foreign cities, well, the game is not going to be over, and or you're losing. So doing this as an ambition in a multiplayer match, this is another one that's just ultimately going to either not happen because you've won the game if you did it, or if you can't do it, again, you're going to fail it, and you've effectively just tossed out 15 legitimacy. So the Hittites are essentially looking at a 45 legitimacy hole right by spamming ambitions. So you need to be very selective with the ambitions that you choose in the game. I think general rule of thumb is you look at an ambition and accept it in only 2 situations. 1, it explicitly matches the goal of what you're doing, or 2, you have like an 70 to 80% sense of confidence in yourself. So you're feeling 80% good about this, maybe 70, that you can complete it in the next 15 to 20 turns. If neither of those things are true, don't accept the ambition. There's only 1/3 scenario where you can accept ambitions. Even if you know you can't complete an ambition, you can accept an ambition if the event is offering you something that you want, and you're willing to effectively trade the legitimacy for it. And the most extreme example I can think of comes from single player. It's not enabled in competitive mode, but similar to this capture 2 foreign cities ambition. In fact, it may very well be this ambition, and maybe the catapult or onager was disabled, but there is an ambition in single player mode, non-competitive mode, that asks you to capture a foreign city, and if you accept that ambition, it will just give you a catapult, an onager, right? So in single player, I actually accept that ambition all the time, even if I have no plans on going to war, because I'm very happy to trade 5 legitimacy for an onager. And you can choose to make that decision in multiplayer. So the 3 scenarios are: it explicitly fits your goals, you can complete it in about 20 turns, or if you know you can't complete it and you're willing to trade the legitimacy for whatever the event is offering you if you accept that ambition. Those are the 3 situations where you should accept an ambition. If none of those situations are true, if you are capable of saying no to the ambition in the context of the event you have, say no. And sometimes they will do the opposite. Sometimes you'll say no to the ambition, and they'll say, oh, you'll get 120 discontent in your capital. And it's the same thing. I'm happy to trade 100 20 discontent in my capital for not taking a legitimacy penalty of an ambition I know that I can't finish. So sometimes bad stuff will happen, but you need to also choose to just accept the bad result rather than just throw your legitimacy away. So a little bit of a tip for both players and anyone watching there. From the Hittite situation, we're having a classic situation of accepting way too many ambitions, accepting ambitions we cannot finish, and this is just going to put us in a legitimacy hole. And if we look right now, we're already at 84 legitimacy compared to the Babylonian player, who thankfully is actually only at 54 legitimacy. What happened here? Oh, we bought 20 orders. Okay, this is a classic schemer mistake. We've bought tons of orders as a schemer, so we're losing 2 orders per turn, sorry. But that makes sense. So we would have about 74 legitimacy naturally. And we are about to complete a new ambition, though. Once we finish. We're building nothing but warriors. So it'll be a while. It'll be a while before we control 5 ranged units, because we're building 3 warriors. But you know what? Again, anybody, if you're watching this cast after the fact and you've been a player in this match, please, both from myself and any other spectators and casters, take any criticisms or jokes or teases that we may make about gameplay decisions. Please take them with, in the spirit of kindness, in the spirit of, take them with humility, take them with, grace, I guess. Because at the end of the day, this is a great way to learn. Like, hearing these rants about, oh my God, you shouldn't be doing the thing. That's how you kind of learn. You know, you're having an experience in the game right now, playing this game, where you're making the decisions as best you can. Now you have an outside bird's eye lens viewing what you're doing and offering commentary. So that will give you a moment to be like, oh, wait, I never thought of it that way. And give you an opportunity to make different decisions next time, especially if you have the misfortune of losing your first tournament match, because then you can take all of the lessons that you get from both the experience of playing the game yourself, but also any commentary that gets offered, and you can bring that into your next tournament match, which is pretty handy. So yeah, if I sigh or groan or say, why are you doing that? It's purely coming out of the interest of love and making sure that you guys have a great game in the future. We are getting an onager out of Babylon, so I do love this. This is actually, ironically, after that whole rant, is going to be... I was up here looking at warriors. This is going to be our 5th range unit, so kudos to you, Babylon. You will get that ambition. In fact, we could Civic Rush it right now, and I might be inclined to do that with the Civics boost. But, yeah, actually, I would 100% be inclined to do the Civics boost. We'll get our law. We're going to get our civics boost and 2 more laws next turn. So yeah, I might put a couple more build turns into this and just rush it out with civics. Get an onager on the field, migrating toward their opponent, and they could get spooked by just that. Morale damage is very much a thing in this game. So your opponent could see an erudite player who will likely be stronger to them soon, with onagers rolling down the gerbil plains. I really like that. I don't know if the player renamed it or not. But if they did, that's kind of funny. And if not, that's actually even funnier. And that could force a surrender. Of course, you definitely don't want to roll a single onager into a tactician ruler, because then it's just going to get stunned. Of course, I feel like this tactician should be on this ranged unit. I think archers are excellent units to hold tactician generals, tactician leaders, particularly, because that allows you to stun units from a great distance. I really enjoy the effort that the Hittites are putting into their road network. Roads are super important, and I really think you want to have your road networks completed, or certainly being prioritized come the mid-game. So either by turn 50 or around turn 50 is when you should be basically by turn 50 you should have your road network set up. And if you don't, that's when it's time to take a trader worker or create a worker chain and say, okay, it's go time. These 3 workers that I have are going to build my road network in the next 5 to 10 turns. So dedicate some real effort to getting that road network up and that transportation network up. And of course, tons of situations can change the decisions you need to make. I'm sure I've played plenty of games where I don't have a single road network up by turn 60, but that's just the concept I think about when I think about these things. Different benchmarks, trying to get that road network up by the mid-game. We're also missing repairing this. I will be really disappointed if we let this decay. It can be easy to miss, though, and some players have mentioned that. Getting an Odeon, we have a barracks. Oh yeah, we got drama earlier. We're not really doing much with it, are we? Yeah, okay. Babylonian's turn. We have 16 orders here. I'd like to see more harvesting if we're not spending our orders up much. Because again, let's not forget that you can get events from all these things. You want to be careful about harvesting gold and silver. I think they still have a negative event stashed away. Hey, here we go. Chop, chop, repair. Great. Fantastic. Love to see it. Love to see it. It's always fun. That's actually a favorite thing of mine, to be spectating and be like, oh man, I really hope this guy does this. And then a turn or two later, they do the thing, and I'm like, oh, thank God. That's very satisfying as a spectator. 4 turns on the pyramids for the Hittites. I don't see any other wonders being developed. Warriors coming out. Warriors being built in every city. Wow. All right. I like this a lot. And let's talk about why. With an onager, this is going to be an issue. But of course, our opponent, the Hittites, don't know that there's an onager coming, right? We know. We know what's happening. The Hittites don't. All the Hittites have is information that their opponent has been erudite for most of the game, started with a schemer, and we, the Hittites, have 22 science on turn 41. So those 3 things are enough to infer that we are grossly behind in science. So, why do I like the warrior spam? It's possible that the Hittite player is thinking to themselves, hopefully maybe planning around a culture boost here, but even if not, they could be thinking to themselves, I kind of need to aggress. We're still similar, so maybe my opponent is being as greedy as I am. He can see the slingers here, but he knows they're just slingers now. So this is, when you start falling this far behind, if your opponent is greeting, or if you know or think your opponent is greeting, trying to just kill them early and punish that greed can sometimes end up being your only course of action. Even if, unfortunately, it's a bad course of action. We don't really want to charge off into a battle that we can't fight. But at the same time, 22 science on turn 41 against an erudite Babylon that started with a schemer all game. That is a hole that we know we're in. So it becomes one of those questions of, well, do we take an opportunity now and just hope for the best? And if that's what the Hittites are thinking, I can get behind that. Because even if charging across the map with a couple of warriors and an archer is ultimately a bad idea, it might actually be the only plan the Hittites have in this match to kind of keep themselves in the game at this stage, with the level of with the level of that they're falling behind in terms of science and stuff. And sometimes games will come down to that kind of harrowing decision making, where you kind of have to make a decision that you know is not really the best idea, but you're doing it because it's kind of the only choice you have. And we've seen that play out a couple of times in the tournament so far, and sometimes it pays off. Whatever the thing is, sometimes that gambit pays off, and sometimes it doesn't. Comp bow in 6 turns is going to be brutal. All these slingers will be archers, and yeah. We're fortifying. Oh. Excuse me. Forgive me. Okay, so we're fortifying. Yeah, all right. This is a big issue. This is a big issue for the Hittites. I actually forget. If you're watching this live, because I see 5 people in the chat. Zophister, if you're still here, I'm going to count on you to be maybe this guy. But, let me find it. Options. UI. Advanced help text. If you're watching this stream live, because I want to make sure I do it, but I probably will forget because I'm basically going to log off for the night after the stream. Hop on to the Discord and let people know in the tournament you have to turn this option on. And it's not mandated by the rules, but it's almost necessary to help give you more information in the game about the game that you're playing itself, but B, your opponents. And to give you an example, I'm going to shut it off for myself. All right, they're discussing about wrapping in 10 minutes. That's fine. So I've shut that option off. And look at this. Oh, can I see this still as an observer? I can. That's kind of funny. All right, well, never mind. Because for some reason it's still on, probably because I am an observer. But this law is active. Well, actually, yeah, this law is active situation. You don't see that without that option turned on. You can't tell that your opponent has 4 laws. You can't tell what laws that they have. We call this, or I call this, tooltip sleuthing. There's lots of information that you can glean just from these tooltips. And if you're a multiplayer gamer or you're getting into multiplayer for the first time, this is an aspect of kind of investigating what your opponent is capable of that becomes important. Because first of all, we know with 4 laws, our Babylonian our Babylonian opponent can build his unique unit at some point and or build strongholds. The second thing we know is we know what laws he has. So we know he has polytheism. We know he has constitution, centralization, exploration. But the more important thing about knowing these laws is this also tells us where he has been in the tech tree. We know he has monasticism. We know he has constitution, which means when we look at the tech tree, just from looking at the one tooltip of our opponent, we can see that our opponent has all these technologies down here. So we can infer strategically that he's very close to machinery because he has sovereignty. You know? And if we can see, okay, he doesn't have serfdom or navigation yet, we know that he has not spent time teching it. He has labor force, we saw that. So you know what I'm saying? Tooltip sleuthing becomes very important in reading the situation of where your opponent is on the map. And it's only possible to really do that if you turn this option on, Advanced Help Text. Turn that on, save it, and maybe I'll do a tutorial on how to read the game in a multiplayer match better for our players. Kind of left that part out when trying to help some of the new players get into the multiplayer experience. Maybe once this weekend is over and we're done with all the streaming, excuse me, I can take 20 minutes and do a tutorial on how to sleuth tooltips. I'll give you another example as well. If you look at this warrior, this is a trader's warrior. If we are Babylon, if we have working from the Babylonian side of things, but now I'm in Babylonian perspective. If you look at this warrior, you'll see a smiley face. This will actually tell us not just that this warrior is getting a 10% combat bonus, but it also specifically tells us that that family is friendly. So just by looking out for these icons, we can actually tell the political situation of our opponent. If we come down here and search for this rider, we don't see any of those icons. So we know that they're cautious. Because if they were upset or angry, would get a minus, would get a combat penalty here. So tooltip sleuthing can come in handy. Let's see if we can come up with an example for... Well, nobody's upset yet, so... But yeah, if we look at this trader slinger, same situation, pleased. So this can tell the Hittites that the trader's family with Babylonia is pleased. To be perfectly honest, I think Mohawk should make all of this information way more accessible than it actually is to the opponent, to the other players. They should make it more integrated to the UI itself. It's one of my few criticisms. It's not a major one of mine, but I think for getting into it, there's a lot of kind of you only get the information if you know where to look sort of thing, which obviously creates a learning curve. Which is not bad. There's nothing wrong with having a learning curve, but I think some of that information could be more accessible to the average player. And plus, personally, I hate looking through all these tooltips, trying to figure out who's friendly and who's cautious and who's pleased. So, especially for the military units, I would rather to have just an easier way to find out the politics of my opponent. More warriors coming down the pipeline. Road being built towards his opponent. So maybe we're just fortifying here while we wait for the road to be built. Because I really, really hope we don't just decide to build up a defensive line. Because Babylon's getting very, very close to crushing us. Of course, it does look like this match will go into a second session, which is totally fine. We encourage players to only play as long as their wits hold. No sense having a 9-hour marathon session and taxing yourself too hard. Absolutely no problem splitting a 6 to 8 hour game across multiple sessions if you need to. Of course, just a reminder, we do encourage our players not to review streams content. And we encourage our community not to spoil any content for the players. Just to kind of uphold the integrity of the tournament. The Hittites are doing some nice scouting. A lot better scouting now. They have a clearer sense of the world that they're in. They can see some nice military buildup and garrisons coming online. It's interesting. I like that the road is coming down here, and we're actually beginning to advance. Very, very interesting here. So I really do think that the Hittites are going to try and make a play before Babylon gets too far ahead of them. I don't think it's going to go well with a 5-turn onager, unfortunately. But I do kind of like, since there's primarily slingers in Babylon, right? I do kind of like that he's roading towards the scrub and towards the woods and also away from the army. There's no sense to go directly across the map and attack into your opponent's fortifications. But I actually like that this worker is set up to, let's show it from ours. It's actually set up to go down in this direction. It would be a little funny if the Hittite player is just kind of able to stage in this area while Babylon just stands around being like, oh, wait, crap, he's going down that way. That would be really funny to me. In addition to having an onager in 4 turns, we're also 2 turns away from strong culture compared to, thankfully, only 6 turns away from strong culture for the Hittites. Those heavies actually could really help us if we could get an edge in a fight. And they could solve the onager problem as well. But really, really looking tough here. Because now we don't even have the onagers constructed yet, nor the Akkadians that are going to come from the culture shortly. We already have begun to surpass the Hittites in power. So the window of opportunity is closing and closing. And again, I'm not even sure that this is a good idea for the Hittites, but it might actually, oddly enough, be the only idea. Because what do we have? We're still at 22 science compared to 71. Like, we're kind of way past the point of being able to catch up at this stage, I think, unfortunately. So this is going to be a Hail Mary, a tough needle to thread for the Hittite player, but one great thing, we haven't necessarily seen either of these players fight a battle yet. Both players struggled clearing camps, but the Hittite player only struggled with one unit. They had just their tactician, so they were a little underprepared. The Babylonian player tried to clear a barbarian camp with 3 slingers and managed to lose one. So, as risky as this is for the Hittite player, this gambit, this last-ditch Hail Mary, could end up paying off if it turns out that Ant is a better tactician than Fiddler. So we'll have to see how that plays out. And of course, speaking of tacticians, if the tactician stays in on the throne and comes in clutch. All right, I'm going to save for our players and do a quick recap before we close out the stream. Thank you for tuning in live. Thank you for watching after the fact on YouTube if you're here. Let's do a quick stat recap. Wealth is favoring Hittites, but both are looking at wealth of stockpiles of well in the thousands. Population favors the Hittites 20 to 16. Specialists favoring the Hittites as well, 5 to 9. Workers, 6 in Babylon, 5 in Hatti. 6 military units in Babylon, only 4 in Hatti. Well, constructed. Allow me to amend that. They've been constructed because there is an extra archer in Hatti. 13 technologies to 8. Now, on its own, that number would not be bad. I don't think 5 technologies ahead of your opponent, or your opponent being 5 technologies ahead of you, is an insurmountable hole to climb out of. The problem here is that it's in tandem, but this is an unfortunate thing for Ant. Their economies are very similar. They both have the same level of wealth, similar specialists, all this stuff, and they both have 35 and 34 improvements. So what makes the whole of technology insurmountable is this, the tech rate. We're looking at 71 science to 22, a whopping 2,300 science invested into the tech tree compared to 1,000. So Babylon has more than double science invested in the tech tree. That's where the onager is about to come from. And this military score will be rising further and further. Orders do favor the Hittites. So I've talked about this before. If you have an order advantage, you can win fights. So again, I do see a very narrow path for the Hittites to try and pull off a gambit. They are advancing to their opponent, and I would like to think this is an awareness that they kind of just need to throw whatever they have at Babylon and hope that they buckle under the pressure. And we'll see how that goes. Very risky. Not looking so hot, but I think they're the path because the Hittites have more orders. They have a military ruler on the throne in the form of the tactician, so they can stun things. I do think the tactician is on the wrong unit. I would get it on the archer probably, or maybe a slinger if we could get a slinger coming up here. Do we even have trapping? Gross. Oh, we don't even have trapping. That sucks. Spoked wheel. We have our heavy chariots. Our heavy chariots are going to come in clutch once we level up because we'll have routing potential, and they'll also could be a solution for the onagers. So I could see, and also look at this, no spears in Babylon yet, right? So if the heavy chariots are able to take to the field by the time this conflict happens, it is entirely possible that the Hittites could set themselves up with a route chain enough that their unique unit could wipe out the majority of this army in like 2 turns. leaving only maybe the unique units or some onagers left, which then the heavy chariots can take out. So basically what I'm saying, he could theoretically gain a decisive enough military advantage, enough to force Babylon to surrender. Because you don't necessarily need to beat your opponent. All you need to do is to convince them that they're losing, which is not, amusingly enough, 100% the same thing. So on that note, I am Scientific. This has been the Old World Community Tournament. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we have lots more tournament action coming this season. This is only round one, start of the season, so stay tuned for more games in the community tournament. Thanks for watching.